Greetings all, and welcome to the 37th episode of TM Tactical Movement. For today, we'll be taking a look at the Leer, Glare, Scary Face, Foresight, Mean Look, Laser Focus, Tearful Look, Growth, Harden, and Defense Curl techniques. Much as its name suggests, the Leer technique involves staring sharply at an opponent in such a way as to make them less confident about their defensive abilities. The Leer technique can effectively be thought of as the reverse of the tail whip technique, even though it achieves the same end. While the tail whip technique uses charm and cuteness to make the opposition less guarded about their defenses, the Leer technique is designed to scare them into an unguarded state. By sharply glaring at the opponent with grim determination, Pokémon utilizing a Leer technique can effectively frighten their opponent and make them less confident about their defensive strength, in turn lowering their defense stat. The fact that the technique can hit multiple opponents, is very stamina efficient, and is extremely difficult to miss, makes it a great move for softening up an otherwise heavily armored opponent, in turn increasing the chances of weaker younger Pokémon being able to inflict noticeable damage against stronger creatures. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's defense stat or lower an opponent's attack stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Leer technique. As one might guess from its name, the Glare technique involves sharply glaring at an opponent with or without the added benefit of a stomach pattern in an attempt to paralyze them. While the Leer technique relies on a small amount of fear to affect the opposition, the Glare technique heavily exaggerates the move in that it is delivered in such a menacing manner that it can shock others into hysteria and lock them out of a fight or flight response mentally, freezing them in their tracks and paralyzing the opponent from fear alone if it works. Since the effect is due to nothing more than full-blown fear, however, the attack is not guaranteed to work on every single kind of opponent and can even backfire completely. As such, some of the Pokémon that are actually able to use this technique choose to use the striking appearance of some sort of belly pattern to complement the move and enhance its effects. The fact that it's practically limited to snake-like Pokémon is probably not simply a coincidence, as snakes are renowned for their eyesight and ability to inflict fear in all types of humans, let alone Pokémon. It may not see a lot of use in professional combat, but for trainers that are willing to bet on it, it can certainly be an effective way of immobilizing the opponent when an edge in mobility is needed. Moves, items, and abilities that either cure or prevent paralysis are highly recommended for countering the Glare technique. Much as its name also suggests, the Scary Face technique involves scaring an opponent with a frightening face so much that they become more afraid to attack first. The Scary Face technique is designed to use a moderate amount of fear to incapacitate an opponent by making them fear what would happen if they attacked first. By putting on a frightening appearance and making themselves look almost monstrous, Pokémon utilizing a Scary Face technique can instill a sense of fear in the opposition that makes them more cautious about how they attack, likely for fear of backlash, in turn sharply lowering their speed stat about twice as much as normal. The move is unable to hit multiple targets like the Leer technique because of its focus on a single individual to maximize effectiveness, but the ability to heavily slow down agile opponents and work almost perfectly every single time can make it much easier for powerful but slow-moving Pokémon to finally land a blow without fear of missing. Unfortunately, this does come at the cost of 3 times as much stamina, but when a change in mobility is needed, few of the moves can deliver effectively as this one, which might explain why it was issued as TM26 in Silph Co.'s 8th generation line of TMs and TRs, and TM6 in the 9th generation line. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's speed stat or lower an opponent's speed stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Scary Face technique. In effect, the Foresight technique involves locking onto an opponent by taking their thoughts and using them as a visual and physical manifestation of their source of origin. The Foresight technique is complicated in its execution and still a bit of a mystery in terms of its actual function, but its effects in battle are more than recognizable to the average trainer. The Foresight technique at its most basic level effectively involves using the opponent's thoughts against them by having the user of this move generate an electromagnetic or psychokinetic field around the target that transmits their thoughts into a visually and physically apparent form that can then easily be observed by others. In short, the move is designed to do 2 different things. First, it is designed to eliminate any stat changes the opponent has made to its evasion and make them as easy to hit as if they're at the start of a battle. Second, perhaps more importantly in the context of battle, however, the move forces ghost types to manifest a completely physical state for a short period of time, and thus makes them vulnerable to the effects of normal and fighting type moves. While it might only last until the end of a battle, this interesting trait can make the Foresight technique a dangerous weapon against ghost type users that otherwise enjoy using their immunity to normal and fighting type moves to their advantage. Due to its unique attributes, there is no way to directly counter the effects of the Foresight technique. Much as the name suggests, the Mean Look technique involves staring at an opponent in such a fearful manner that they become scared to even try and run away. The Mean Look technique is a variation of the Leer technique that utilizes fear to mobilize the opposition in a way that, while seemingly impractical at first, can often prove to be a saving grace among certain strategists. Instead of staring at an opponent harshly in an attempt to make them too scared to move properly, the Mean Look technique utilizes a menacing focus glare to literally frighten the opposition in such a way as to make them unwilling or perhaps even too afraid to try and escape. The psychological aspects of the technique tend to vary from opponent to opponent, but regardless of whether they stay out of sheer fighting spirit or fear, the move nonetheless delivers the same general effect every time. The fact that a move is effectively impossible to avoid can make it the perfect move for either isolating wild Pokemon like Abra that are prone to simply vanishing after appearing, or keeping a hurt opponent from being switched out with a more powerful fighter, and in turn making its potential as both an offensive and defensive move immense. Due to its unique attributes, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Mean Look technique. In essence, the laser focus technique involves the user concentrating intensely on the inner power in preparation for a high-powered strike against an opponent's weak spot. The laser focus technique is an uncommon move only learned naturally by a limited number of Pokemon, and is a sign of their dedication to inner thought and their capacity to brutally unleash hidden power from within at an opponent. In using this move, the user concentrates intensely on the energy contained within its mind, and focuses it from their mind across their entire body, feeling one with themselves and the world around them as they set their sights on an opponent. In this powered up state, the user's senses are heightened, and it becomes easy for them to analyze their target and locate, through the aura that they naturally generate, where the weakest spot is. With this knowledge in mind, if the user then proceeds to attack the opponent immediately after using the technique, they are able to strike the weakest point without fail, and thus deliver a critical hit with perfect precision. The fact that moves like Swords Dance can increase a Pokemon's offensive stats directly means this move might not always be of great use in battle comparatively speaking, but because critical hits always bypass modifications made to the defensive stats of an opponent, it can help those that learn this move break through stat increasing barriers and deliver a forceful blow that even the strongest of defensive fighters might not be able to survive. Without some form of protection against critical hits, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the laser focus technique. As one might imagine from its name, the Tearful Look technique involves user giving an opponent a teary-eyed look in order to decrease their offensive power. The Tearful Look technique is a fairly rare move, only learned by a select few species of Pokemon that allows them to manipulate the emotions of their opponent in order to give them an edge in battle. Similar to the fake tears technique, Pokemon using this move use some sort of automatic biological trigger to start to cry, but instead of weeping strongly, only a few tears are released, and the user opens their eyes wide, giving their intended target a literal tearful look. This look is often so sad and depressing to look at that the target feels sorry for having to fight against and attack the user, in turn decreasing their will to continue on with the fight and their will to hurt them. In short, this has the effect of lowering both the target's attack and special attack stats, and thus leaving them in a crippled state, unable to fight with their full strength anymore. The rarity of this move means that alternatives, like the Tickle technique, which effectively has a similar effect, might be a better tactic to rely on, but for the few Pokemon that can gain access to the move, it is nonetheless an interesting tactic that would help them survive opponents' offensive assaults at least a little bit longer in battle. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's attack and special attack stats, or lower an opponent's defense and special defense stats, are highly recommended for dealing with the Tearful Look technique. Much as the name suggests, the growth technique involves using sunlight to facilitate instant growth in an effort to increase offensive strength. Although grass-type Pokemon generally grow at a fairly steady pace throughout their lifetimes, many of them have the ability to temporarily facilitate instantaneous growth for at least a short period of time. This is done by absorbing large amounts of sunlight and using whatever energy reserves one might have to suddenly grow larger and more powerful, and in turn raising their user's attack and special attack stats. The effects of this move, unfortunately, are only temporary, as the cellular growth experienced is not permanent and will quickly result in cellular death and shrinkage after a little while in battle. Even so, the temporary boost in power can more than assist grass-type Pokemon that need to defeat an opponent that still weighs too heavily armored to damage. Moreover, in rare cases, it may be possible for a Pokemon to transfer this energy to an ally or other life form through a concentrated energy beam, though this is only possible outside normal battle scenarios. It is lastly important to note that, because the move's effectiveness is somewhat dependent upon the intensity of the sun, extremely bright and sunny conditions may occasionally facilitate double the normal amount of growth, and in turn cause the user's attack and special attack stats to increase twice as much as normal. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's defense or special defense stats, or lower an opponent's attack and special attack stats, are highly recommended for dealing with the growth technique. In essence, the Harden technique effectively involves either tightening one's muscles or otherwise generating a thin coat of extra body material in order to reduce the amount of physical damage received from attacks. The Harden technique is a surprisingly effective move that allows naturally hard Pokemon or Pokemon that otherwise have good control over the muscles to reduce the amount of damage they take. This is done either by tightening every muscle in the body to reduce the amount of stress and tear they experience, or by creating a layer of body material such as exoskeleton material or rock to provide extra resistance against damage. Regardless of how it is actually executed, the resulting effect is the same. The move temporarily increases the user's defense stat. While this simple move may do little else other than protect against an otherwise fatal blow, it is an important component of the lives of many bug-type cocoon Pokemon and is essential to their survival in the wild. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's attack stat or lower an opponent's defense stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Harden technique. Much as the name suggests, the defense curl technique involves curling up one's body in order to decrease the amount of physical damage taken. Most Pokemon have at least a few spots in the body where they are actually more susceptible to physical damage than normal. In response, some species of Pokemon have developed the ability to curl their bodies into a ball in order to protect these vulnerable spots. In effect, this means that the defense curl technique will raise the user's defense stat every time it is used. It is duly noted though that this action also has an interesting effect on the rollout and ice ball attacks. In the case of the rollout attack, tightly curling the body into a ball shape helps to stretch out the user's muscles and make them more limber and capable of delivering greater damage. For the ice ball attack, it is believed that the same action makes Pokemon more efficient at rolling this attack towards an opponent, though the exact reasoning behind this is still somewhat of a mystery. Regardless, the resultant effect is the same in both cases. The use of Defense Curl before either of these attacks effectively doubles their base power for the remainder of a battle. This might not be a cumulative effect in the case of multiple Defense Curls, but for Pokemon that need a little extra defense and or offense, the Defense Curl technique can prove to be the perfect move to rely on in close quarters. It was for this reason that Silph Co decided to release the move as TM40 within the second generation line of TMs, but complaints over the limited usefulness of the move eventually led to its discontinuation. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's attack stat or lower an opponent's defense stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Defense Curl technique. The move's secondary effect on the rollout and ice ball attacks, however, can only be countered by forcing the opponent to switch Pokemon. That's it for now, but look forward to the next set of moves here on TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It is a great pleasure to share with you all the fruits of my research and all the positives it gives to understanding the wonderful creatures we call Pokemon and how their powers and behaviors function in their world. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more work like it, please give a like, comment, and or subscribe to the channel so you can get regular notifications on when new content is being uploaded. You can also find links to my DeviantArt page, Patreon, and Discord server in the description below. Please, join me on this road to seeing what the world of Pokemon has to share with us, and the many mysteries and wonders that keep us all coming back for more.